Państwa bardzo serdecznie. Bardzo mi miło po raz kolejny gościć na
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see you at our next edition of the Trusted Economy Forum. We are going to discuss e-delivery, which is popular in Italy. 250 million parcels deliveries are done in the electronic way annually. In Poland, we had hopes for e-deliveries to grow due to new regulations, so that we do not have to go to the post office and can correspond with our business partners, companies, the same way as we do in a standard way via electronic mail deliveries. So we would like to discuss these issues with my wonderful guests. And first of all, a general issue. What are e-deliveries? What is the major subject of this revolution in terms of migration to the paperless world? Bird's eye view. First of all, it's not a revolution and the future revolution, it's the present situation. E-deliveries exist here and now. It's my 20th time here at this conference. Before EIDAS we discussed it, and now we discuss it after EIDAS. It means that we're switching to the paperless world, both in the business sector and in normal life. Yesterday and today we've been listening to developments and solutions which have been implemented, and we are happy about that. But government, the court system, the judiciary have to be covered by it as well. Right. I don't think we are facing major challenges. We just have to have a will to do that. And you, dear director, what is your point of view? It looks a bit different from my point of view, whether it is our new normality or not. In the world, it's already developed. The regulation on e-deliveries is being revised, but it's not been implemented yet. We hope that we will see it implemented in a few months. But from the point of view of e-deliveries, as a person who is dealing with a traditional post market, I can see a huge potential for e-deliveries, for seamless communication between courts, public administration, and other entities and citizens who are becoming more and more mobile. And to a greater extent, I would like to focus on the physical location, which is not going to play such a huge role in the future. It's going to be convenient to collect your letter from the court, from public administration, whenever and wherever we are. I'm not speaking of being on vacation, for example. During legislative work, we were asking for 14 days for the acceptance of the delivery, and then the delivery is going to be regarded as successful. Still, this message can be collected later, not immediately. You can contact the entity that sent the message, so it's a huge potential ahead of us. From my personal perspective. I have this idea that administration cares about my health, because quite recently I received a letter from the fire guards, and I received information. I have to collect the letter from the post office. I came back and I received another piece of information, and I spent 3,000 steps to get to the post office, collect the letter, but it turned out that this was the same letter, so I collected it twice. So it's a joke, of course, but we can see that the supervisory authorities do have good intentions, but the postal system is not always effective. Communication, implementation, solutions, milestones have to be completed to change the situation. Maybe the private sector could act faster, undertake certain steps. We have qualified services providers here in the room. Dariusz, what do you think?
Ja już tutaj wielokrotnie wiele rzeczy mówiłem, które wtedy wydawały się futurystyczne, a dzisiaj są już
Right, so we are all on the same page, of course, and I have a simple question. Are we going to wait for the e-delivery regulation in Poland? But since 2015, we have some tools at hand. As a legal advisor, I would say we have a system, we have tools. Polish public administration is willing to do that. Abroad, these solutions are already operating. There is only Polish mentality problem. And if we don't change our mindset, it's going to be the same. For 5 years, I have not sent any letter by post. I don't have a printer. When I moved to the Silesian University, I said I'm not going to sign my employment agreement using a regular pen. And they changed their mindset because they wanted Shostak to work at the university, and I signed everything using the electronic signature. So it's natural for me. It's not natural for me to go to the post office. So I minimize my efforts because my postal office is 6 kilometers away from my home. So the only problem in Poland is the wrong mindset. The mentality problem. We have tools, we have legislation, and we will focus on this issue later. The future is going to increase the potential. It's an end to paper. We have to be paperless. I want to support Professor's words. We have to change our mindset, our mentality. I want to stress it as well. Our society has this mistrust towards innovation. In 2020, we realized we had to change our attitudes, and within a few weeks, not mentioning months, a huge portion of society switched to digital services, trust services, and we conducted research into services in 2016 in autumn. During our survey, we also asked about the pull-up services, e-deliveries, and digital and trust services. 20%, the maximum, had a positive attitude to trust services. In 2020, we repeated a survey, and there was an increase to 78% of trust towards these innovative approaches, solutions, and it had to do with more expectations for the future. Individuals and institutions were positive about e-deliveries, not even mentioning trust profiles, a PUAP solution, which is the Polish solution. And during the pandemic, there was this possibility to communicate with public administration in Poland. You had to do it online using ePUAP, electronic drop box in Poland. You had to send information via email, and as regards e-portal, Ministry of Finance is advanced at that, and you can file your tax returns electronically. Only a minority of citizens does that using Polish postal service, regular post. So our mindset has changed a lot due to the pandemic. So these circumstances force us to change our attitudes and our mentality. Another thing is that we are all specialists here in this room. You all know what trust services are about, but an ordinary Pole doesn't know what trust services are. So it would be good to raise awareness and to build trust. I know that for 20 years. Yes, I understand, Professor. I remember your speeches from previous conferences, but let me also stress that ordinary Poles are not aware of trust services. And when I talk to people from administration, they believe that e-delivery is email message. I educate them, but I have to do it over and over again. So qualified services have to develop, and I'm convinced that as soon as we launch public e-deliveries, this will be the turning point, and there will be a hype of electronic service development.
Rzeczywiście musimy wnieść, to w takim wypadku zwracam się to z uśmiechem do Pani, bo ja na przykład z Michałem Taborem przeszkoliliśmy tysiące ludzi. Rekord mieliśmy chyba 1000 naraz na szkoleniu, także to jest kwestia miesiąca i dobrych teamsów. Jesteśmy w stanie ten kaganiek wiedzy całej administracji w Polsce wnieść, tylko niech taka decyzja po prostu zapadnie. My potrzebujemy z Michałem do przekonania naprawdę kilka godzin. No, my mówimy wtedy, że nie ma zlituj się, tak? Także i jesteśmy tutaj jak najbardziej za tym. Tym bardziej, że to, co nas czeka, i tutaj pozwolę sobie przejść już do trzeciego elementu, proszę Państwa, nas dopiero czeka rewolucja. Także to pytanie, że e-delivery będzie rewolucją, nie, to jest starość. Także w Polsce, proszę Państwa, co najwyżej będziemy odrabiali coś, co powinno funkcjonować od 10 lat. Ja ustawa o doręczeniach elektronicznych, cieszyłbym się, jak byłaby w 2010 roku. Jak się pojawiła teraz, to uznałem, że właściwie już jest niepotrzebna, a jak ma
force in 2010, I would have been very happy, but now it's not a new thing anymore. Now, EIS 2 brings completely new definitions with it, like the 3.0 document. What this is about is that there's going to be a document that's not going to be sent at all. And that's the European EID idea, that the data are systematized in a system or in blockchain that cannot be sent. So in 4 years' time, unless we quit the EU by that time, but if we don't, if they send documents through an electronic wallet that you can't send because the administration isn't prepared for it. And it's just a matter of 3 years, so we have to start working on it now. You know, if e-delivery is a problem in this country, and this is archaic, then this new version of the document won't be implemented at all. So either we, veto this in the EU, or we quit the EU. And there's international or trans-border cooperation as well, not just inside the EU. And again, if electronic communication is concerned, we might be sort of separated from the others. If we look at the EU blockchain strategy, automatic decisions to be made as part of smart contracts is part and parcel of it. So automated decisions are even made possible in Poland under Article 14 of the Code of Civil Procedure. But if the e-delivery decision isn't made by 2024, then we have a problem, because the Code of Administrative Procedure is already in place in its amended form. When I talk about this to people, they look at me the way they looked at me 15 years ago when I said everybody would have a digital signature. Now, the pandemic was very good for digitization. Things that used to be considered impossible here in Poland became possible in 2 weeks. For example, having this trusted profile going through a bank, or the credential going through a bank, everybody in the public administration, that was not possible, and then when the new pandemic appeared, suddenly within 2 weeks it became possible. So maybe if another wave of the pandemic comes about in the autumn, suddenly we will have e-delivery in spite of not being able to do for 30 years. Now, this is a bit of a local problem, not EU-wide. What is the real obstacle in the public administration, and why isn't e-delivery as popular as digital signature? Well, we've got 10 million people with the electronic signature and identity. So what went wrong or what went right in your cooperation with business and banks? What are the barriers? Some of the digital services have worked out all right. We have portals and online forms for electronic services, and there are a number of them that work well. And there are public administration bodies that develop these online services because they know that this makes communication easier. It also works. It also makes the work of that office easier, and it's easier for the citizen who has the obligation to file some documents by a certain date. On the one hand, digital services save your time and also save the public officials' time. The information is transferred automatically from the online form to the database, or some statistics are calculated automatically, and so forth. But it's also useful for the sort of ordinary citizen. The simpler and easier to use a service, the more likely the citizen is to use it. But people have to be educated, they have to have the knowledge, and they have to be convinced that the service is safe. The Ministry of Finance portal, which makes it possible for you to file your annual tax returns, also needed some time before people got convinced and started trusting it and started filing their tax returns online. To be honest, I myself only started using it recently, and not like the professor here who's been doing it for dozens of years. I've only been filing these documents digitally for a couple of years. And it is to do with this traditional paper world that we're so used to. Now, about the implementation of digital services, I think that it's also a bit of a problem with the technical side of things. Now, I don't want to dwell on it. I'm not an expert on technology. I know more or less what the capabilities and limitations are. There are more capabilities than limitations, to be sure, but a system has to be built fully developed and tested before it is implemented. and then we make the decision whether we go for it. But it would be a good idea to know that the system works first in terms of capability and throughput, and that is not going to break down on day one. Let's just leapfrog over these delivery problems. This is a great opportunity to catch up or to join the revolution that's happening in the West. And all these old things, just get rid of them. If the public administration doesn't do it, it's not going to have big data. If it doesn't have big data, there will be no services to speak of, and will be even more lagging behind the West. So I hope we could finally open our eyes and do this leapfrogging. Thank you very much.